Hi everybody, my name is Griffin Bridgers. Usually I'd present an educational topic, but today I wanted to dive into the hot button issue that everybody's been looking at lately. Artificial intelligence, as evidenced by recently released tools such as ChatGPT and GPT-4, which are known for such feats as passing the bar exam and medical boards. That's more for GPT-4 and not ChatGPT. But to start, I want to preface that this video is not intended to substitute for legal or tax advice. I don't encourage you to use any of what I discuss here as your own personal document, and I also want to emphasize that this is not an endorsement of AI or ChatGPT or anything like that. This is not a video created for profit. It's not a video created to endorse any service of mine or of ChatGPT itself. Now, with that being said, in the estate planning world, there's a lot of people out there who are curious, at least, about the capabilities of artificial intelligence in estate planning and whether they can generate a document that might be sufficient for estate planning purposes. And as with anything, I will always suggest that you retain an attorney to have documents prepared. Now, for those of you who are curious, I want to just show what ChatGPT can do and also highlight some of the shortcomings. And I hope through this that I can show that while there's a lot of, power in artificial intelligence, it's not quite to the point of replacing an attorney. It's going to leave a lot of holes in documents, and it's going to leave you in a situation where unless you know exactly what to type in to the instruction window, it's not going to fully generate a sufficient legal document. So with that being said, I'm going to take a common estate planning situation. Let's take a sweetheart will. So I'm going to instruct this to write a will, and I'm going to tell ChatGPT that it will leave everything to a spouse. I'm going to name that spouse Jane. And then I'm going to mention that everything at second death gets left to kids equally. I'm going to specify that what is left equally to the two kids is held in trust. Well, and I'm also going to mention that I want this to be governed by Colorado law. So let's see what ChatGPT can come up with now. So, as with anything like this, you have to type it in, and it thinks for a bit. So you can tell it's sitting here thinking. And in a minute, we're going to see what ChatGPT has to give us in terms of a will. So here we go. As you can see, it's writing out the will. You can see that we haven't given it the name of the testator, i.e. the writer of the will, so it has left that blank. So to start with, that's a blank that would have to be filled in, and you would need to capture that. And as you can see, it's now writing the clause to leave everything to the surviving spouse. We mentioned that we wanted a spouse named Jane, but it didn't bother to pick up the name of the spouse and just left it as a blank to be filled in, as we saw with the testator. So now we see the clause being filled in to leave everything in trust equally for two children, and it's typing in some of the routine trust language we might usually see, and that should be the bulk of the estate plan that we've described. We'll see what else the ChatGPT can give us in terms of boilerplate. So as you can tell, it has hung up here. It's still thinking in terms of what will happen to the children's shares. So here we go. Still thinking, still typing. Okay, so now we see the clause that appoints the executor, also known as the personal representative, depending on which state you might be in. Okay, now we're seeing some of the boilerplate being typed in as well. All right, so as we close out here, we see that it has signature lines, and let's go through this will and determine where the shortcomings might be. So typically what you'd see is this is the format of will that existed probably about 40 or 50 years ago, that you would see the clauses labeled as first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. And what I often tell estate planning clients nowadays is that 90% of the will is virtue signaling. It's designed to match what a court or trustee or other attorney might be accustomed to seeing, so that you get that appearance out of the gate of having a document that appears to have been prepared in accordance with the accustomed norms and accepted norms of drafting in the state you might be in. So to start with, this does not appear to cover those accepted norms of what you might see a modern will look like, where it would break out section headings. Now I know that sounds nitpicky, but boilerplate counts, and the way in which boilerplate is presented counts as well. So by not following the accepted format and norm, this is already going to be subject to a lot more scrutiny than you might typically see. So we see out of the gate, we have first that we direct all debts, funeral expenses, and expenses of administration to be paid by my executor as soon as reasonably possible. So that may not be a good outcome if you're looking to pay these as soon as reasonably possible. Typically, if you go through probate, there will be a process for settling claims, debts, and expenses, and determining what those are and settling those out. And you want to make sure that the executor has the power to do so and doesn't feel pressured into prematurely paying those types of expenses. Now, in addition to the blanks and names we see here, next clause second, leaves everything to a spouse. And then it says if the spouse predeceases, that gift lapses, and then everything goes on to be distributed under the next paragraph third. So that should probably suffice in most cases, but there are some additional powers we might have that aren't necessarily acknowledged here, and it may not be ideal to just leave everything to a spouse. It says if we die simultaneously, that's another thing that is left blank here. We don't know the definition of survivorship. Does it have to be by a certain number of days? Without a number of days being listed, that's going to depend on state law, which may require 120 hours or some other requirement depending on which state the testator lives in at the time of death. So here we see in clause third, everything being given in a trust for the benefit of two children. Now it says in trust, in equal shares. So it's not necessarily clear here whether this would be two separate trusts or one trust for both children. But as we can see, it says all income will be distributed at least annually. That could be a bad outcome because that creates a guaranteed return from the trust that may not be protected against creditors. We also see distributions of principal as determined by the trustee. And now, it's by the trustee's discretion for the best interests of the children. Now, we don't know who the trustee is going to be, and as we'll see later on, the trust didn't actually say who the trustee is going to be, or the will did not, in terms of how ChatGPT typed it out. This is what's known as a fully discretionary trust, and if, for example, a child here becomes trustee of their own trust, this could create what's called a general power of appointment, which may be a bad outcome because we haven't limited this to health, education, maintenance, and support. Now it says the trust terminates when both my children have attained the age of blank. Now keep in mind, when I typed this in, I said I wanted a lifetime trust for the kids, which we already don't have. So at that point, when they reach some magical age that you have to fill in, everything goes outright to them, which once again doesn't create asset protection for this trust. Now we see if either child predeceases or dies before that age, then their share goes on to their kids per stirpes, which is basically by family unit. And if they don't have issue, then it would go on to the other child and vice versa. Now, what's not included here is maybe there should be a power of appointment for a child. Maybe we should fill in some blanks in terms of when distribution should be made. Should they incentivize work, productivity, values, education, anything like that? Now, we see on the next clause that we have the appointment of an executor, and usually this would be the surviving spouse. It could be kids, it could be a professional, but this is also, again, a set of blanks that have to be filled in, so we don't necessarily have a complete will here. And in this clause, we'd usually see, if we're appointing fiduciaries, that we might want a trustee of the trusts that are created in the third clause. We might also want guardians if children are minors. Both of those are issues that are not addressed here. And then finally, we see fifth, one of about 10 different clauses I would typically like to see as boilerplate. Beyond this, it might also require you to have a rule against perpetuities in the state applying to those trusts. It might also look at things like survivorship, like I mentioned above. It might look at what significance do section headings have. What happens if a section of the will is overturned? Would that apply to overturn the entire will, or would it allow the court to sever just that one invalid clause? There's a lot of things that are missing in terms of the boilerplate that you would typically like to see, both in terms of the end of the will and even the powers of the executor and powers of the quote-unquote trustee, which is said to include both an individual or a corporation acting as trustee, but without actually getting into the actual appointment of the trustee itself. And finally, we see a generic clause that the will be governed and construed under the laws of the state of Colorado. Well, it doesn't say what happens to the trusts under that will, and it doesn't say what happens to the administration of the will. Would the administration of the will be under the law of the state in which the testator lives? Most likely, but there's nothing here to fill in those blanks. And then finally, we see that the will is simply to be signed by the testator. There's no clauses built in for witnesses. Most states are going to require at least 2 witnesses for the will, or at least a notary possibly to have a self-proving will. Without a notary block or witness affidavits, the will is largely incomplete. So that is ChatGPT's attempts at writing a will. Now, another hot button issue I often run into is the exercise of powers of appointment. So let's look at that. Let's consider a situation where we want a clause of a will to exercise a power of appointment. So I'm going to type that in real quick. Okay, so we're going to ask ChatGPT to write a clause for a will that exercises a testamentary limited power of appointment in favor of children. Let's see what it can come up with. Now, I've been purposely vague there and vague in the will clause because I want to make sure you're not using this as a tool to write your own documents. So we have ChatGPT thinking and writing me out a will clause here. So let's see what it says and how this power of appointment is actually exercised. So we see here it's done thinking, so it's exercising the testamentary limited power of appointment. Typically, you'd want to see this cite the trust in which that power of appointment is included, down to the specific section and paragraph reference. Now, we see the children who are named there, and it says any other child of mine who may be born after the date of this will. So capturing that might be good, depending if the child is acknowledged by the parent and legitimate, but you never know. Now, in this exercise, it directs the executor to distribute the assets subject to that power, as well as any other property that's subject to it, amongst the children in such shares and proportions as they may by joint and unanimous written instrument designate during their lifetimes. Well, that doesn't say how. Essentially what that says is it's going to be distributed to the children as they agree. So what if they don't agree? Well, then does that make this invalid? Probably not, but it does lead to litigation over this clause. Now it says if my children do not exercise this power, the assets subject to the power will be distributed among them in equal shares. So essentially what this sounds like it's doing is it's creating its own power of appointment, where it's saying the children now have a power of appointment amongst each other to direct where the property goes, and if they don't do so, then it'll be distributed among them in equal shares. So very convoluted way to word this, and it doesn't address what happens if the property is to go in trust. It doesn't address whether the property will be subject to claims of creditors under the will. It doesn't address whether the rule against perpetuities in the original trust is included here. So I've beat the drum on this before, that I don't think AI is going to be sufficient to do things like exercising powers of appointment. Now, I'm sure it could possibly get close, but it's not going to check all of the boxes that an attorney would, which is why ChatGPT is at least smart enough to caveat its instructions here that with the importance to consult an attorney to ensure that the language used in a will accurately reflects the testator's intentions and complies with applicable state law. So, ultimate lesson here is that, yeah, AI can do a lot. You may or may not be impressed with what you've seen here, but ultimately, AI just is not to the point yet where it's going to threaten the business of attorneys. Now, that doesn't mean any client in the world couldn't go out and use this to write their own will if they don't want to pay attorney's fees. But as I mentioned, there is going to be a lot of gaps in the document that is generated. So with that being said, hopefully this added some value for you, and hopefully this was educational in terms of the limitations of AI. But as I mentioned, I would not encourage you to use this to write your own documents, regardless of whether you're a layperson or even an attorney using this to draft. It can help you, but it's not going to get you all the way. But I thank you again for listening to this video, and I look forward to seeing you in my future content.